Hey guys, Teresa Barber with Sippie Couture. Welcome to my channel and thanks so much for watching. Okay, you guys really showed this one some love. It's a little rustic patina ombre that I felt like changing up one day and I did it. I showed you guys some of the pictures with the depth and y'all fell in love. And I'm just so grateful that you wanted to see how this is done. And I can't wait to see what you guys make of this design. Real quick also, we're doing a giveaway, a massive giveaway when this channel hits 10,000 subscribers. We're going to give away, oh my goodness, a lot of stuff. Cricut Explorer Air 2, some tumblers, a turner, epoxy, gift cards, a whole bunch of goodies. So to enter that, just subscribe to this channel and then head on over to the Sippie Couture community Facebook group and like the post that says about the 10K giveaway. So thanks again for watching. Let's get started with this and I hope you guys love it. All right, so I have this one tumbler that I've played with quite a bit. So there's spray paint that's been wiped off of here like a million times. But this is what we're going to use for the tutorial today. I have just white spray paint. This tumbler sanded really well, and we're going to go ahead and give it a nice coat of white spray paint. Quick short burst is best for getting this on there without it getting too drippy whenever you're first starting out. After that, when you get used to spray painting, you can just kind of put it on and let it kind of go. I keep it on a dowel rod. I put the dowel rod, my little tumbler, on my arm and put a dowel rod inside of it, and I'm able to really spin it around and control it a lot without having to get my arm in all of these different directions. So that's kind of one of the little hacks I do, is use a dowel rod for every time I'm spray painting. And then it gets your hand like further away from the tumbler, so it's not like getting completely covered in paint. So I hope this first little hack helps. All right, our spray paint is dry. And we're going to go ahead and go on with the colors. All right, to be completely honest with you guys, this was done a while ago. I just realized that I never posted it, so I'm trying to remember exactly what colors I used. These are Patina Rust Effect paint. It comes in a little kit, and I think there's 3 of them. There's a yellow one that I think goes with this. But they're by Art Extravaganza. Are all of them? Yes, they're all Art Extravaganza or Art Alchemy. And you can find these Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, Amazon, all those good places. I do have an Amazon shop, and I have all of this linked. So you can find this there. What I always do, I have a few, let me turn it sideways so you can see. So I have a brown, I have a rust color, I have this really pretty color that goes almost copper. I think I need to grab a gold. I'm gonna have to run and get a gold real quick. And then I have a few different teals. This one might be dry, so we're gonna have to kind of fight with this one for just a little bit. That's the only bad thing, is that they do tend to dry out quick. So once you use them, make sure you keep the little cardboard piece that is on there to reseal it back up, or even put saran wrap and then tighten it on there so the saran wrap will keep it. So I have, this is turquoise. This is a really pretty blue, magical pond is what it's called. And this one has a little more of a teal to it, Mermaid Sparkle. For these brown one, I have a brown rust. I have this brass and a red rust. Let me grab a gold. I think it's unicorn. All right, and then I have this gold one, and I think I put this just through a few places. Okay, so I have this gold one. It's called Dragon's Eye. It has almost a greenish tint to it, but I'm pretty sure I used it just in a few different places. So we have this pulled. What I like to do is I always start with my teal colors first. I also have a baby wipe. This is a wet baby wipe, and I have a few more here because I do apply these with my hands, and it gets, it kind of gets everywhere. So just be mindful of that. So we're gonna go on first, and we're gonna add this texture through here, smear this on, and really start to get these colors going. I don't like using a paintbrush for this because all of this texture and stuff will kind of get stuck in that paintbrush, and that's not really what I want to have happen. I want the colors to kind of land on the cup, not soak into my paintbrush. And it's kind of fun just doing it with your hand. So we're going to get this on here, smear it all the way down, and the more that we put this on, the more texture is going to kind of build up. So don't worry about how your streaks or anything looks, because this design is really kind of built up a lot, like just layers. Yeah, this would be a lot easier if it wasn't all this dry. I know that you guys want this tutorial, so I didn't have a ton of time to order products and get a new one in, but when you get them, they're definitely not this dried out. Make sure everything goes up and down, so every place that I went sideways, I'll do a bit to kind of smooth that out. this through. I just want this color on here. At some point, as I put color on, it does wipe away some of these other colors and textures, but it will still build up. We can always add more. I wonder if I can add alcohol into this dry one. I'm gonna let this go on my table and then I'll clean it up in a minute. Just be patient, guys. Work with me for a second, just hang tight. This will get a bit more blue, actually a lot more blue, to really play off and look like that other one. The other thing with this is that it doesn't have to come out exactly like mine. This is really fun to just play with and get these colors on here. So when you're doing this and it comes up different, that's fine. Like, it all ends up looking really good anyway. And just knowing that I don't know exactly what I did for that other tutorial, I mean the other tumbler that I posted, kind of goes to tell me that this one will definitely come out different. So just keep smearing these on here. Definitely helped. Maybe I need to throw a little water in here. Okay, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna add some water to this and see if we can kind of bring it back to life. Okay, I've decided to do this on video in case it works. It may help you guys because, like I said, they dry out quick. So this is just a bottle of water that I have. I poke a little hole in my lid, and then whenever I'm doing dirty pours or I'm doing some type of work that needs water, it's really easy for me to just grab that and pour that in and have control over how much I put. I have just I keep knives all over my room. It's probably weird, but I keep these little paring knives all over my room. This is just a cheap little set from, I think, the dollar store, Dollar General, one of them. Oh, look, that worked. Okay, good. I know there was one of these I tried to bring back to life with rubbing alcohol, and that did not go as planned at all. So don't try rubbing alcohol. Seems like water does the trick, though. Let me see how that feels. Oh, wow. Yeah, that worked. Okay, good. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay, I should have done that first. Sorry, guys. So let's act like the front part didn't happen. If your stuff is dry, go ahead and add water. If it is a brand new thing, then you're good. I don't know if you have to mix it up. Probably wouldn't hurt to kind of stir it around with something just to be sure. We're gonna go ahead and get this in here. We don't wanna see any white. So definitely go through and make sure we have all of this white covered up. I'm not paying a ton of attention to the bottom of this as far as bringing this blue all the way down, because that will be mostly brown and golds and kind of those bronze in there, but I need a spot to kind of roll it around on here to show you guys. So just to kind of save the cleanup. Wow, I almost can't believe I just saved that with water. That's really awesome. I think that was because I was talking to a few people about this stuff, and that was everyone's main complaint, is that it just dries out so fast. Like, you do 1 cup, and if you forget about patina for a minute, it dries out. The fact that we could just add water, mix it up really good, and save it is awesome. And I would say that even if you're not going to use a patina, if you just kind of remember that it exists in your craft space, go check on it and bring it back to life. Even if you're not going to use it, just bring it back to life, because I think that once it dries too much and it's too far gone, then we may have a whole nother issue, but that wasn't all that bad. All right, I hope that you guys, I hope no one like stopped watching when they saw my stuff was funk. Hopefully they gave me a little grace and they kept watching. Because I think that if I would have been like, oh, that's not going good, pass. But for everybody that's still around, there we go. We saved that. Okay, I'm gonna knock some of that off. That's a bunch of teal in there. You can see how the texture kind of builds up in some areas, and that's fine. We really, really like that. It will tie in a lot as this goes on. I have my heat gun. We're going to hit this with just a little bit of heat to dry some of it. We don't want it to be all completely dry. A lot of those colors mixing in together is really what gets it going really pretty. So not a ton of heat, just enough to kind of have it not crazy wet on there. All right, so the second one we're gonna do is the second to darkest color. We're gonna save that light blue for last. This one is Mermaid Sparkle. All right, let's see. You know what? Actually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna build some of this brown at the bottom. That way, as I work that in, what do? You know what? I'll do that last. I'll do that towards the end. I'll keep with my idea. What I was debating was that my blue overlaps down into the brown part, but I want to keep that brown part as if it's ombre and falling up more. So I was kind of debating on how much of that to put down. And then I'm going to apologize one time because I know that there was once I apologized a lot during stuff and you guys were like, you're annoying me with saying sorry. But my allergies, I'm in New Orleans and this weather has been absolutely crazy. So if I'm sniffling or if I sneeze, I'm really sorry. I will do my best to edit out what needs to happen. All right, so not a ton on here. I'm dipping my finger in just to get a little of the color, and I'm not putting my finger straight down on there. I'm kind of turning it on the side and letting a little of what is on my finger kind of scrape off onto there. It looks so cool. If you can see how it kind of runs over some of the bumps and gives a lot of texture to like the top of the bumps, but the bottom doesn't pick it up. That's what really looks cool because it kind of highlights those top bumps without it making the whole thing just blindingly one color. It really gives a lot of depth when those, the kind of inside and in between those bumps stay dark. And this is all how you want it to look. Like there isn't any certain way to do this, just kind of go on what you like and how you like for it to look as you put it on. If you're not a fan of this color and you don't want this much blue, then you don't have to do it. At some point, I do think that I'll take more of this green and add it through again towards the top. Because like I said, once they all work together a lot, it looks really, really cool. All right, I definitely want to make sure I'm not missing a ton of spots and everything's kind of even as far as where this color is landing. I think I need a little more right in here. And then you see how that came out, just one big blob. We can fix that. It can still get a ton more layers, so I'm not worried about that. All right, now we're gonna go in with the colors on the bottom. We're gonna go with our brown. This one is brown rust. Wipe off your fingers so you're not kind of dragging that color through every bucket. The brown rust and red rust, I use my baseball tumblers and it comes out looking really neat. All right, so we're gonna bring this up. Just go from the bottom and bring this up. One of the things with this is don't stop in the same place. Have some spots, like this is right here, this one's ending up here, this one's gonna be a little shorter. Kind of alternate how deep and how much you're dragging this color across. Definitely make sure you cover up all of the white at the bottom though. And don't worry about any of the blue and stuff that you're covering because we can always do that again. One of the things that works out really great is when you have that color and it doesn't just stop, where it kind of runs in and blends with the other ones. On a few different designs that I do, that's how you can tell it really just looks cool because the color doesn't just completely end in one section. It kind of carries on. I keep adding this. If you have a lot of paste on your finger and it's kind of gritty, this brown one is gritty just like that blue one, you can always tap in some sections and add a little more texture to it. It does dry fairly quick, but if you're putting big clumps, it is going to take a little longer, so just be mindful of that. Your heat gun is what we're going to be using to dry it again though. One of the things I do want to let you guys know, when you're mixing this together, if everything is really white, it'll end up getting really muddy looking, really wet. It'll end up getting really muddy looking, and that's when your colors just won't quite come out. Like if you're doing a rustic tumbler and you feel like all of your colors are just way too muddy, then wash it off. You can wash the stuff off, just soap and water, it'll come right off. Wash that off and go again. What's happening is that you're putting your colors together when it's still, when everything's still a little too wet and they're blending too much. And that's when you'll kind of run into it showing a few different colors. All right, and then as far as how far to bring up an ombre on a wine glass, there's a crease of the glass that's kind of the widest part. It's about right here in this tumbler, about right here. I like bringing it just a little above that. Not too far, just a little up. But that's also one of those other things I kind of, that's based on how you want your ombres to go. I like it just above this. I like to have more of the top color than the bottom. This right here, I'm gonna fill that in because it's a little too deep. I'm not gonna fill it completely because I wanna be able to see some of that blue through there. So I'm not doing a ton, but I'm gonna bring that just a little more. And then also for the top, whenever you're bringing your colors up, don't stop with a big wide point. It'll make it look kind of wide and blobby. If you turn your finger sideways and you kind of stretch up thinner lines going forward, it'll have a much prettier streaky look rather than kind of how my finger landed on a few of these as like a giant pokey blob. I don't know if that, hopefully that makes sense. I know what I'm trying to say, I just don't know if I explained it right. So just be mindful of that. And like I said, we're still gonna put in more colors, so we can add more of that blue if any of the brown goes up too much. So we're gonna put that brown one away, wipe off our finger again, and we're gonna go into the red rust next. Do like I did before and hit this with the heat gun, just so that everything won't get completely muddy. The spots that are somewhat thick, they won't dry all that quick with the heat gun right now. They'll stay wet, kind of deeper in those colors. So I'll still get some of that color I want to spread around and blend. It just won't be as, it just won't come out as muddy because most of it's dry, or a good bit of it's dry. I have to find all of my stuff. All right, so now we have red rust. This is the other color that I use in my baseball tumblers because it really has that baseball dirt look. But whenever you're doing the rustic tumblers, it really ties in great. For your heat gun, guys, don't use a ton of heat. Like I said, just enough to kind of get it to dry in some areas. And you'll see where some of these start to build up. Some of these colors start to build up, especially when they lay over each other on some of the thicker parts. It's really neat. Bring it up kind of on the side of that brown. I don't want to cover every part that goes up a brown. I don't want to cover each part of that. I'll bring some of this in between it, and then let's like tap off some of the texture on the other pieces of brown. So keep working this through. I actually have the picture of the one that I posted for you guys up on my computer screen right now. That's why I'm doing it in this space. I don't like to do this type of work in this space. I do it, I'm in a spot where I'm okay with it getting messy. I don't like doing it by my computer, but I need to remember what that one looks like. Oh, that went on really thick. I need to remember what this tumbler looks like so I at least get close for you guys. This one will end up coming out a bit more teal than the original that I posted though. I'm pretty sure that there's another teal patina color that I may be missing. All right, I'm gonna grab some more brown and kind of go over this again with some brown just to kind of help this color tie in. I don't want it to be too orange at the top. And the contrast of the brown against that teal will be really pretty. All right, so back in here. And now I'm just kind of, I'm letting some of this, I'm not hitting that with the heat gun because I want these colors to mix and kind of give me a darker red rust color. If you add in that brown, it will kind of mix and darken it up, but it'll still have that kind of show through in some areas. This weird chunk, look how that one fell. It's just a big sideways chunk. Gotta take that off. I don't like it. And that's the other good part, is that the way that these pieces dry, they're kind of clumpy and textured, so you can just kind of pop it off. And after all of this sits for a bit, I do take my hand and I run it after it's completely dry. Like, it has to be completely dry for what I'm about to tell you. I will take my finger over it, my whole hand, and I'll kind of rub away the really loose pieces. That way, whenever I go to epoxy, it doesn't, those loose pieces don't want to kind of fly around. And then I usually seal it after I do that. When I know it's dry, I seal it with epoxy. All right, I'm gonna put some in here. I don't want those to come out too streaky. Let me seal it with clear spray paint, sorry. All right, take a look at how that is. All right, I'm gonna add in the other color blue now, so I need to wash my hand off really well. I'll just wipe it with these baby wipes and make sure that's off, because I don't want to put this brown or red into the blue bucket. All right, wipe this off. I have a piece of clear contact paper on this workspace right here. So if this gets too dirty, I just peel this off and reset it. All right, this one is called Magical Pond. It is a really shimmery blue. Like, look how pretty that is. So we're gonna put that all through here. This color is a really good shimmer, so just be mindful of that when you're applying it. You don't want it to completely take over everything. So kind of that same thing, I dip the front of my finger into it, but I'm kind of using the side of my finger to bring this paint down and kind of spread it around. Oh, don't dip into the lid. That was a bad idea. I also need to bring that teal and then darken that up. If any spots of your brown are wet, you can hit it with the heat gun after that step, so that you keep these colors a little more separate and your brown doesn't come up and kind of dirty up your blue. I'm not quite going down that far into the really wet, thick stuff, so I'm not too worried about the color transferring up. And if it does, all you have to do is just add your color and cover it up again. Like, add in that teal to cover up. I'm kind of using this teal to bridge, this blue to kind of bridge the gap of that teal and the other shimmer that I put on. This Mermaid, was it Mermaid? Yes, this Mermaid sparkle. I'm making sure I kind of have this color tie in and not completely cover up that deeper teal, but brighten it in sections where the blues meet, or the teals kind of meet each other. Like I'm, you know, kind of filling in that middle ground. See, like right there, that's one big streak that I don't love, but we can just add more and cover that up. All right, bring some of this down more. And like I said, this is all playing with how you want it to look. So if you're happy at a certain point and you're like, well, she's still going, but I don't know if I want that much blue, or I don't know if I want that color, you can stop. Like, make this however you want it to look. You definitely don't have to keep adding just because I'm doing it. All right, I'm gonna grab that darker turquoise and bring that through. I just realized the whole time I've been saying teal and it's turquoise, isn't it? All right, so get this, add this into some sections again. And mixing this in with the two when they're still wet will do a lot with that texture. It'll kind of cover it in some areas, add it to others. It'll really, really be pretty. Like this one piece right here, this big streak. Just add it through some parts of that. I'm gonna bring it a little further down, and then I'll still go in with my other colors and darken that up. The overlapping of this is really what ends up making it look so cool. And the texture, like if you can get a view of that texture, it's really neat. If you find a spot that needs a little texture, it's a little too flat, then just dab it on kind of like right here. Like wipe that piece off and then just spread it. All right, I need to turn it this way. I need to make sure I'm looking at it from my angle too. All right, I want to make sure that everything continues off the tumbler. It doesn't stop just shy of the top. That way it's like a continued piece that goes up and down. I don't want it to fall short of that. And then I'm going to add in a little more brown just to make sure right here where this blue stops that it isn't a dead stop, so that it kind of ties in more with these bottom colors. I'm going to pull a few more pieces down to make that a little easier to play off. That way, if I miss a spot, at least we have some of this teal working through these bottom colors that it will help to show that. All right, going back with this brown. If you like the way the color that red looks instead of the brown, then for this part you can use the red rust instead of the brown. I just like that the way that brown kind of covers it, comes up and mixes in. I don't want it to come off too reddish or too kind of orange, so I like going with the brown for this. And same thing, I'm dipping my finger in. I have a lot on one side, but I'm pretty much just using the other part to kind of blend up. And really focusing on where these colors stop. Like for this blue right here, like you see how this blue, look how shiny that is, that's crazy. So you see what stops right there? I'm taking this and I'm running a strip almost right through the middle of it, just to kind of break it up. I still want it to come down on each side of it, so it still works like it's pulling in through the colors, but I just bring that, the brown kind of through the middle of it. I have to turn this to face me again to see. It's hard doing this upside down. All right, I see one spot right here. And then let's see if it all comes up where I want. It's so pretty. Patinas are really so fun and so pretty to do. And the fact that kind of the rustic patina thing, there isn't any certain way to it. Like it kind of does what it wants. You can't mess this up. Like you really can't mess this up. All right. Close that. I have a few colors over here that I actually didn't even use yet. We're going to get the brass next though. What we're doing with that is we want to take it and drop off just a few of those pieces over some of the textured, well, that color, over some of this textured area. And it will brighten that up. Let me dry this because I don't want that to get really muddy with the brown. Whoa, I just hit this thing. I looked away and I just smacked this against my tumbler and I didn't even mess anything up. Sorry, guys. All right, so now this is brass. It is really pretty. It's another shimmer one and it gives a lot of dimension to this. Ooh, okay. Let's see if I can add water to this one too. It's working. I'm just definitely gonna have to mix it up a bit. The fact that this is actually working by adding water and I'm able to still use it is pretty awesome. I feel like that's a little game changer. I'm sorry, I know I'm talking to you guys like you're sitting here with me, but if not, it's going to be weird and quiet, and I don't, honestly, it takes a lot to add music to tutorials and to kind of position it right in between stuff. And I want to help you, and that will take up a bit of time. This stuff is cool. It's taken, yeah, why does it look like maroon almost? has like this really crazy color that's picking up to it. All right, let's see. I don't need a ton. As I put a ton on my finger, I don't need a ton. I'm making sure that some of these bigger pieces just kind of mixed in. And this is actually, it's doing really good. From mixing it in, some pieces of this got choppy and it kind of, think cut butter versus like melted butter. And it did its job to kind of rehydrate this. But some pieces are almost like if your butter's cut up and it's like chunky in sections versus like having it mushy. So I want to make sure I can, when I dip in my finger in here to grab a color, I'm not grabbing a chunk. But all I really have to do is just smush it down and it's going the way I need it. It's getting back to the consistency that it needs to be. And I'm sorry I didn't have all this prepared. Hopefully it's helping you guys and you're not like, why didn't you troubleshoot? Okay, so we're going, my hand's dry. We're going with this brass. Tell you what, it makes really pretty fingernail polish too. So weird, sorry guys. All right, dip this on, not a lot. This brass will take over. So just be mindful of that. I'm barely touching my tumbler. I'm like barely touching it. Like I can't show you, I can't show you exactly how, but it's like gliding over. It is not at all pushing on my tumbler. Barely touching it. Like or if you had a really sharp knife, you'd be able to kind of like graze your finger kind of close to that blade and not cut it, is about the amount of pressure that I'm putting on here. Like nothing, like afraid to touch it level, keep away. That knife thing was probably a very bad example because you'd still cut yourself. Please don't do that. Please don't try it. Just don't press hard, okay? Just lightly dust it. I don't know the artsy word for it. Just don't press hard. It's like there, like that right there is when I pressed hard. Same thing like before. If we don't like anything, just get your colors and build them back. Get them back to how you want it. You really want to hit some of the tall parts that you see of the texture that put on. Anything that's really nice and textured, it will pick up this so pretty. And then the same thing as not ending them in the same spot. Some areas I'm going like really high with it. Just make sure that you're turning your finger, how do I say it, a little less wide, a little more narrow. That way it's not ending in kind of a big blob at the top. Like it's fine if it's thicker at the bottom, but you want it to go narrow towards the top. Oh, that landed, that big chunk right there. And that weird blob right there, we can cover up. And this went a little weird. All right, let me turn it back on my angle so I can see it. And adding in any areas that I feel like needs a little more of something. Like I want it to shine up a little. I like that. Wow, it's pretty. All right. Let me grab this. We're going to go back with this turquoise and just a tad, just enough to kind of cover that, the colors that went up a little too far if you don't like it. If you like it, leave it. And kind of like I said, my rule of thumb is that if you have a big blob, put your color for that right in the middle of it. Kind of like run it right through the color for the separation. That way it'll still look intentional. It'll still look like it's ombreed in, but you're kind of putting it into it being a giant blob. All right, and then the last one I did is kind of this gold. Get another baby wipe. This one is called Dragon's Eye, and I hope this is a color that I need it to be. How can I test this out? feel like that's gonna be too yellow. I'm gonna try just a tiny, tiny little bit and see if it's what I wanna use. If we don't like it, we can cover it up. It's not bad. It's not bad, but it's pulling a green. I don't want it green. Okay, so what I did when I tested that color out, there's a piece right here that that is a little chunky, so I can actually, you know what? I am gonna use that. I am gonna use that. But I'm gonna go that amount. Where did I put that? Oh my goodness, can I find it? Hopefully I can find it. I'm gonna put that, here it is, it's right there. I'm gonna put it just like in a few random spots, super, super light. That way it gives a little more depth in some areas, but you can't quite tell what it is. And not a lot. Like I'm even more of barely touching a few spots. Like to kind of dusting it over a few of those big pieces. If I have any areas that went on thick down here, I'm gonna switch it and go thick a little higher up. There's a clump that landed there, but I can brush that off. Since it's textured, you have a bit of forgiveness because you could always kind of wipe off what you don't like. I think this added color in here will give it something a little fun. Oh yeah, that's neat. Okay, I'm happy I used that. It's given like a gold, like a deep gold rush type look. Oh, that's so cool. I was a little scared when I put it on at first because it was like, oh, that went too good. That went too much. Oh well. I was a little scared because it kind of looked green. Like the look of this has almost like this lime green type tint to it, but once it kind of dries up against some of these other colors, it's really neat. I've gotten to the point where I've done this whole tumbler before, and I didn't like it, so I washed it off with Dawn dish soap and water. I just soaked it in some Dawn dish soap and hot water, and everything just came right off. So if you decide you don't like how it comes out, take it to your kitchen sink and wash it off. I don't want to get too much. Let me turn it this way so I can see what I'm doing because I don't want to go overboard with it. And I'm kind of looking at, like I have a blob right here, I have some down here. I have it right there and I have it right here. Like kind of alternating. I don't have any up in this area. And then I have some down here. I have some that lands there. I have a bit here. And kind of just alternating everything to mix it up. All right, I have a few spots that went on heavy of that, just like before. And it was high up somewhere. Where is it? It landed right here, and it doesn't have any texture to it, so it really, really is noticeable. So I'll wipe that off. All right, let me look at it from this angle again. See, and you can see how it peeks through. Like that turquoise that we laid at the beginning, there's a bit right there where all that texture missed, so it's still peeking through at the bottom. All right, double check I like everything. The texture that this shows is really, really neat. Under epoxy, it's going to be amazing because all of these deep colors will really get magnified. The gloss, the shimmer of these will just be so pretty. All right, so this has to dry completely. See one spot that looks more of a circle than a line. This has to dry completely, so we're not going to epoxy this right now. We'll let it sit. I forgot that I had blue on my hand when I went to go wipe a piece that I thought was still wet. So I'm adding blue now. Stop tinkering with it. All right, so now is at the point where you got to stop. I have to stop tinkering with it. If I keep messing with this, I'm going to keep messing with it. I'm never going to stop. So we're going to set this aside, dry completely. It has to dry completely before we do anything else. So put it down, walk away with love. All right, so this is dried. What I like to do now is I take my hand and just kind of gently wipe it over. That way if there's any spots that are a little loose, they'll fall off. Don't push hard at all, because anything that really looks cool and textured, you'll knock right off, but every once in a while you'll get a clump that is barely hanging on, and we definitely don't want that to be an issue when we go to epoxy. So kind of lightly just tap it and make sure anything that looks chunky is either really adhered or it falls off. And then we're going to hit this with spray paint. Clear spray paint, it doesn't matter if it's gloss or matte. Just get it on there, thin coat, just to make sure everything wants to stay in place. Also, I forgot to say this. I do not do the bottoms of my tumblers. If you do the bottom of your tumblers, then go ahead and pull that color. Pull those patinas all the way to the bottom. I don't. I trim it off with the cup edging tool, but to make sure that it won't be too much work, I'm going to just get my knife and slowly cut away the stuff at the bottom. And it's just whatever's hanging off this edge. Any big chunks, that way I won't have to really fight with it. This is dry enough to touch at this point, so might as well just do this. Pull that away from the edge. Just enough. All right, so now I won't have any big clumps that will want to pull up whenever I do my my layer of epoxy. So there we go. Speed dry is mixed up, and we're going to go ahead and get this onto the tumbler. This is completely dry. We had it sit for a little bit, sprayed it with our clear, and now we're just going to go ahead and put this on. As long as it's all the way dry, you don't have to, and you did seal it, you don't have to worry about your texture kind of coming loose. If you're worried or you're not too sure and you want to play it safe, then what I would do is drop some at the top and just do your blue first. I would kind of do this method. And then after your blue is coated all the way around, then you can go through and do the bottom half of your tumbler where your darker color is. Just if you want it to be safe. If not, then you can just put it on and go the whole way. So then now I'll do my bottom, just to make sure if any of that brown comes loose, it'll kind of stay down in that brown area. It won't travel up to some of the other colors. And then I also use a good bit of epoxy for this. It's textured, so it's going to have, you'll still feel it in this first coat. You'll feel this epoxy through this first coat. But if you put a little more epoxy on there than you think you need, it will definitely do a bit to go into those gaps and kind of fill the holes and everything. So I have my torch now. Oh look, there's a spot I can show you. A piece of brown came loose. So we're just gonna pick it out. Let me look for it. Right here. See, a little brown came off, so just take that off. I wiped it on my top of my turner. If you're wondering where I put it. All right, and then we'll just look and make sure nothing else came loose. Because if that brown did go to the top, it'll just look muddy where all that really pretty bright blue is, and we don't want that. We want it to stay super crisp. So we have our torch popping any bubbles, making sure that there's nothing on here, everything's evenly coated. Speed dry cures in about 2 hours, so I'm actually going to let it go 3. That way, once I pull it from here, I can sand it. And I'll do a super light sand, clean off my rim, make sure my bottom's good, and trim off everything that I need. That way we can start prepping for that final step. As far as epoxy, this is going to take as much epoxy as to get you to not feel your texture. What I normally do is I do this first coat, I do a light sand and then a second coat, and then that's usually it. But we'll see how this one goes. So let this sit, and we'll be back in a few hours. We're going to go ahead and start preparing this for the final coat of epoxy. We just need to do a little bit of cleanup. First, what I want to do is take my acetone and go around the bottom and really clean this up. I want to make sure that I have a nice clean bottom of my tumbler, and in order to do that first, I need to get rid of all the extra paint and, I can't think of it, paint and textured paste. Goodness. My brain just stopped there. All right, so have that cleaned off a good bit. A razor will do the best, so the rest of it. So what I'll do is I'll take my razor, I'm gonna go on a slight angle all the way around the bottom and just make sure that this is trimmed back enough. I love my cup edging tool, but I don't like doing that to these wine tumblers because I have to get back, so if I line that up, it's gonna cut too much off, and I don't want it to be like right here. I just need a little bit off that bottom so that we can set it down without risking the design toward the bottom of the tumbler. It is really difficult for me to think and work today, talk and work today. Goodness. All right, so clean all that off. This is gonna have to be a tumbler that I keep because I have put this little wine glass through a lot of love. I've tried a ton of designs on this one, so it is a bit scratched from all of my efforts. All right, so let's try it again. I have my acetone. Clean it off really good. And now, just to be safe, what I will do is I'm gonna sand and clean up my top and bottom. So for glitter, do not sand yet. If you were doing any type of design and you have glitter right here, I don't know why I just closed that. Glitter sitting right there, and I noticed it was open. I don't know why I just took a minute to close that. All right, so if this is a glitter design, don't sand it yet. If you feel any rough spots, do another coat of epoxy just to be safe so you don't scuff up your glitter or dull it. I've figured out that the textured paste, it can sand without messing anything up, without messing up the design. Now, if you have big chunks that your epoxy just didn't cover, don't sand yet, do another coat. But I'm fairly comfortable giving this a light sand right now. I haven't had anything mess up. So what I'm gonna do is take my sanding sponge, I'm holding it on an angle, and I'm just helping to kind of smooth out and pull back where I just cut off. I never want to leave that rough. I always do my best to get that as nice and clean as possible. So it's kind of on an angle. The cup is on an angle, and it's just working together to pull back and smooth down those rough spots. Also, this is something I normally do outside, but for the sake of this, I'm just showing you right here. All right, so sand this. Man, it's weird changing things up. This is just an 80 grit sanding sponge that has been very much loved, so it's not too 80 anymore. Well, it's not in some spots. All right, and then let's go up through the top. How am I gonna hold this? I'm gonna have to take this outside and get a little more aggressive with a different sponge. This will do it. I just want it to be a little more aggressive. All right, and then for the top, we're gonna do that same thing. Take your sanding sponge, go sideways. That's gonna smooth down that any layers right there that may be rough. And it's also going to give you a nice clean rim of your tumbler. That way, when we're doing these final coats of epoxy, the whole design can be really sealed in to the tumbler without the risk of it peeling across atop at the lid, goodness, peeling it off the top at the lid over time. One spot right there that isn't quite falling even. There we go. All right, then let's work on some of these parts again. just making sure this is all sanded. That way when I put on this epoxy, it won't want to skip any spots. It won't want to repel. And then the other thing I do right now is I take the time to clean off this rim and the inside of the tumbler. If I have this layer go on just flawless, I'll want to be sure that the whole top is good too. Every once in a while when you're doing a layer of epoxy, a little string of it will travel over the top. And it's okay if you leave just a tiny piece there, but I really like for it to be clean all the way around. And if I weren't to clean off any paint right here, what could happen is that if there's like white paint from my prep or any of the blue, then that paint will get trapped under that epoxy and it just won't look as neat and finished around the rim, which I definitely want it to be as good as possible. All right, so that is all sanded. I'm gonna wash it with some Dawn dish soap and then final coat for this beauty. Well, maybe final coat, we'll see how it falls. We're getting a coat of speed dry on here. And there's a good chance that this will be the last coat. Actually, you know what, this will be the last one because I want to be able to get this out for you guys. If I decided to go with any type of decal, then I would definitely put that on there and then do 2 coats to make sure it's completely sealed. But just for it sitting on my shelf, this is all it's getting. What would be pretty is to do a name in gold kind of around the top, across the top, or a bronze. If I could find like a shiny mirror bronze, that would be super, super pretty. All right, so grab my heat gun, help work out this epoxy. I'm going to take this all the way down to the bottom. Do not go on the bottom of your tumbler, just around to that bottom edge where we cleaned off. And just make sure that it's all sealed back in. What you're going to do is we're going to push this epoxy right up against where we trimmed it off. And then the same thing at the top. Make sure it goes down across the top. And this is why we made sure that the top rim of this was really clean, because this is the part where when we're sealing this all back up, you kind of have a chance of some spray paint getting closed in there. We're going to let this spin for a bit and then come back with our torch and pop any bubbles. I don't see any bubbles in here, but just in case, we'll bring back the torch in a minute. All right, I still don't see any bubbles, just to be safe. I'm going to go through and hit it with the torch. Yeah, there's nothing popping. That's the really good thing about using the heat gun and spreading this on and getting thin layers, is that it you work through all those bubbles. This epoxy loves heat. It really works and pops all those bubbles for you. So I'm not even going to try to get the heat gun on that with the torch. And then for the bottom, we're going to go ahead and clean this up. I have rubbing alcohol and a dry baby wipe. Put a good bit on there. That way it doesn't get flaky and stay. And then just take your finger, let your cup do the work for you, and just keep it one spot. And you're going through and you're wiping around any big clumps of epoxy that may be on the bottom of your tumbler. Once you hit a big clump, turn your rag a different direction and use a spot that doesn't have epoxy on this. After you get that all cleaned off, get your torch, hit the bottom, just to be sure any edges that you kind of bumped into with the epoxy will lay smooth again. And that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope this helps. It really, I don't know, I think it just comes out so pretty. There's so much depth in there, and it just gets magnified by this epoxy, so it's really pretty. Please subscribe to this channel. I'm doing a pretty decent giveaway when we hit 10,000 subscribers. It's going to be, oh man, everything. A Cricut, Turners, tumblers, glitter, epoxy, Two Moms Crash Out gift card, MJT Collective gift card, and everything else that I can come up with to almost help you start a whole tumbler business. So subscribe and then head on over to Sippie Couture Community Facebook page, and that's where you'll find a post that says about the 10K subscriber giveaway. Go ahead and like that post, and then you'll officially be entered into that drawing. That way I can easily just pull a name. So thanks again for watching. As always, let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you over on Sippie Couture Community, and you guys have a great day.